Good morning, everybody. I'm here to talk about HR 1, which was passed yesterday. It's a pretty significant bill that was passed 220 to, I believe, 210 in the House of Representatives on March 3rd, I guess, of yesterday. Okay, so a couple things that highlight this bill. It's meant to improve access to the ballot box, cut down on the amount of super PAC money that impacts elections across the country, and it strengthens some of the ethics rules. Okay, so let's just go with some of the key components. Now, keep in mind, on the surface, a lot of the items that they want to pass in this bill look extremely promising and interesting. And I don't know the fine print. I haven't read this entire bill, so don't shoot the messenger if I'm saying, yeah, on the surface, that sounds like a good idea, because as we all know, on the surface, something could look great, but then you look at the details and there's a bunch of little hooks in it, or little types of scams in it that kind of undermine the core thing that's being presented. So with regards to the voting rights, this bill would offer same-day voting registration for all federal elections. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a great idea. And the question becomes, how do you realistically confirm that that person is a real citizen on the same day? I'm not sure we have the systems that are capable of doing that. So that could become a problem if we don't have the right systems. However, in the real economy, we have banks that can sometimes provide a loan within the exact same day if you provide proper identification, or they can give you a quote on the mortgage. So I do believe the technology is there to allow for something like this to happen. I just don't know if the government has the technology in place to make it happen. But if we can build a space force, I'm sure we can figure out how to do this properly if both parties are involved. Right now, it just seems to be right down the line. It's just bipartisan. It's the Democrats voting for it, and obviously, I don't think any Republicans voted for it. So clearly, they didn't take into consideration any of the Republican concerns, which is always a problem when you're trying to redo the voting system that's supposed to benefit both political parties. It would require early voting for at least 15 days across the states, and automatic voter registration. Now, requiring voting information 15 days prior. So the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, this would make it easier to do the computation as to what you need to do to win an election if you have inside information as to who's been voting. So, for example, if you're a candidate that already controls a particular seat or particular county chair, the county clerk's office, and you see the votes coming through, and you look in there to see who's been voting, who didn't vote, who's still available to vote, you might tip off your party to say, hey, all these people in this particular, these particular blocks have already voted. Here's the list of all the people that are registered as Democrats that didn't vote, or who are registered as Republicans that didn't vote. Go get them out to vote. And so this is the concern about letting 15 days of this, early voting take place. You can basically stack the deck in your favor if you have control of the information. So this is an extremely disturbing part of this legislation. So between the same day voter, where you can't necessarily confirm that that the person is truly eligible to vote, that they're not a felon, and that they're not violating some state laws on restrictions on voting. And then between the 15 days beforehand, you can stack the deck in your favor, and then figure out, who, if there's any kind of funny business taking place, it makes it a little easier to create more funny business in the whole voting process. So that's the other part of it. It's not just that the 15 days allows you to see who you should contact that hasn't voted yet. It allows you to possibly rig, I guess, do some things you're not supposed to do. I don't want to get banned with the wrong language here. Okay, So then the other thing is whenever you register for something, in the federal office, your information will automatically opt you into voting. Now, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. If you are opting, if you register for something federally, you haven't done anything, that prohibits you from getting registered to vote. This on the surface doesn't sound like such a bad thing. Once again, I haven't gone underneath it, into the weeds and looked at all the details to see how it might be manipulated. And I think any of these provisions in every single law, we should never trust these politicians to be doing what's best for us. Either party, the Republicans or the Democrats or independents, we should be looking at it with a critical analysis, debate each and every nuance, and not just every part of it, but we should be looking at the language, the exact word usage. And, I think we need to build an army of volunteer lawyers that can decipher the legal meaning of these words, because contrary to what many Americans may think, a word in a legal setting that you use in everyday life doesn't necessarily mean the same thing. It's extremely important that you recognize that. So when you think you're reading something, you're like, wait a second, this is what I thought it meant. But from a legal perspective, it does not mean that. I am not a lawyer, and I'm not holding myself out to be one. I've just dealt with enough lawyers in my life to know that this is what they've all pretty much told me. And so please keep that in mind. We need to get this figured out. Okay, so now the other thing that they're going to allow is 16 and 17-year-olds to pre-register to vote prior to their 18th birthday. Now, once again, I've heard that some of these birth dates have been changing in some of the voter files across the states from multiple people. This isn't just a one type of thing. I've heard it from a lot of people. And so that's extremely disturbing, because if you can expand the pool of potential individuals into the voter registration files in the 16 to 17-year-olds, and you can just move their birth dates a little bit, or somebody does, clerical error, as they like to say, it's a big problem, because you only need a 1 or 2% swing in some of these races, sometimes only 0.1% to basically do what you want with the election. So once again, these are all on the surface, they sound great. They're very palatable to the American people. But when you delve into it, it's horrible, that what's taking place. Now, in terms of the election security information, things that they want to put into this provision, they want to do verified paper ballot provision, so that people can, mark them by hand or with a ballot marking device and inspected by the voter, see if there's any errors. I think a lot of this, once again, I'm really curious to see how they want to try to roll it out. It's to give people this impression that everything's fine and everything's safe with the voting that's taking place. And they're not too happy that I don't think both the Republicans and the Democrats are too happy with how much has been brought to light in the past year. Okay, I don't need to say about what. You guys all know what I'm talking about. And so since there's a lot that's been brought to light, they're going to try to figure out how to use language and a couple little, a couple new 3-card Monte tricks, as I like to say. Where's that red ball? So as they're playing 3-card Monte with this stuff, that we have to be extremely skeptical about anything that the people that were breaking some of the rules are proposing to solve the rules they were breaking. It's just insanity. So, that's another thing. So then campaign finance reform, they're trying to do that. There's something called the Disclose Act, which will impose stricter limits on foreign lobbying and super PACs. Now, keep in mind, I heard of a very creative approach that the Democrats use in California. And I don't know if this is true. I'm just telling you what I heard. And I get some interesting feedback from people. And I don't have the time or the staff to go vet all this out. I'm trying to learn as I go. And I think this voter election, voter election information project that I'm working on, I'm going to be working on it for at least 2 years, maybe longer. When I first set out to try to get a constitutional amendment passed, that's how I got pulled in by Liz Harris. I set up a group on Facebook. I got to like 50,000 people before they kind of took me down. And my whole goal was, we need to create a private citizen mechanism to audit the vote. Then we need to figure out what we need to do to pass a constitutional amendment to make sure that we have incredibly secure voter integrity measures. So national voter ID, that we have to make sure that they're air gap paper ballots that are blockchained, that we have to have, and every single person, just like you get a code for your credit card, that we have a paper trail that's digital, and you can see exactly where your transaction was and the chain of all the voting that took place on that day. And that there's literally a voting tape, that just like the stock market, if trillion-dollar companies can trade hands for pennies a share differential, and we can audit that in the industry, in the finance industry. You have a right to request the tape and see if you were cheated by a penny. So if we have that ability in the finance industry, I think that we, the people, should have that ability in the voting industry. Like, we should be able to see every single vote, and every single person that did vote, they should be able to confirm through a two-step verification process. Hey, this is who I voted for. It calls an independent phone number, and then everybody who voted, we look at the law of large numbers and statistics, and then you look at what they're saying the vote was, and you'd be like, wait a second, these two numbers don't match. We need to go check the paper ballots, and the paper ballots should all be air gapped. I don't even think we should have machines. And then, because I think that whole thing with Bush, and everybody knows what I think about the Bush family. So back in Florida, when they were setting up what I think to be a scam with the Chads, that's why they rolled out all these machines that would allow them to do various things over the next 20 years. And I think McCain was in on it, and that's why I happen to think John McCain is a traitor, because of his involvement in that whole process. So, I just wanted to touch on this. I will definitely read this bill from scratch, given that I'm involved in the Voter Information Project. I like that you like my new choice of words, information project. We're looking at the voter information across all 50 states. I'm not, that hasn't died. I have the equipment ordered. I have staff putting the stuff together. It took a little bit of time to figure out the right stuff. It took a little longer than anticipated, but I do have a lot of volunteers, and if the volunteers that signed up are watching, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm going to get that information out as I build some of these better processes, because I don't want to build something or work on building something where everything's kind of siloed off and everybody's kind of doing work and they feel like they're doing something, but then the end result is just a whole bunch of garbage. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and not garbage in the sense that there's not valuable stuff there. It's just we can't reassemble it. It takes too much time to try to bring it all together to have a meaningful picture. So how that whole process is organized on the front end is absolutely critical, so that we can at least see the results that we're all hoping to see when everybody's working together to expose this whole thing. So with that, thank you guys for chiming in. And I'm going to do one other quick video right after this, and then I'm going to do the market. Oh, so it's already 7:16. So I'll probably take a little break. Then I'm at 7:30. I'm going to try to get in the habit at 7:30 of doing a pre-market type of video. So today I'll probably do it at 7:35, because there's some economic data coming out. And since there's, I think, 3 or 4 different types of economic data coming out on the U.S. economy, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll try to schedule it at 7:35 each time, so that I have time to quickly read that information, because a lot of economic data seems to come out about that time. So I hope that you guys chime in. There'll be my morning recap of what's going on prior to the stock market opening in the U.S. Thank you.